guys, welcome back to the Live Well podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I'm also so excited to be here with Garfin again.
That's me.
Yes. And for this episode, we also have Danielle, the lovely
Happy
Danielle
to be
again.
back, guys.
Yeah, right. So for those who may not have seen the episode before with Danielle, she is Miss Danielle Thompson. She is the founder of Nature My Therapy here in Jamaica. And she's also a nutritionist and a health coach, right?
That's right.
All right. So our topic today, you guys know we've been talking about, I forgot.
What?
I forgot to thank you guys for all the feedback. Thank you so much for all the feedback that we've been getting. We really appreciate it. This topic is actually based on some of the feedback that we got, right? Because we're talking about, I almost bust it up. Sorry. Thank you for the feedback. Please continue to give us feedback on our social media platforms, our YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Nestlé Caribbean. We really do want to hear from you. This podcast is not just, I want to say for your entertainment or your education, but we do want that collaboration, that, contributions from you guys, because we know that you have a lot to add to what we're talking about. So today, we are going to speak, and today in this episode, we're going to speak about managing a healthy lifestyle while managing the integrity of your wallet.
That's
Money.
Right?
Money.
Yeah, right? Notoriously, we associate eating or living healthy lifestyles with high costs, and that may or may not be true. That actually, it is true, but I believe that it also can be false, right? The two can coexist. So we're just going to talk about that today, because we want to give you guys the tools that you need to live happier, healthier lives, to live well, be well.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you what you need to do to get well, right? So, Garfin?
Yeah, for me, you know how I am already. I love my little quotes and my little research and things. So, for example, this particular topic is very important to me because at one point in my life, I used to be a part of the conversation that said it's so expensive and that sort of thing. And it is. But I realized that my health is my wealth.
Yes.
And so in order for me to be WEALTHY, wealthy, I need to be WELLTHY.
Yeah.
Wealthy.
And so
Yes.
and so I started to, I was forced to invest because I want that. So in doing some reading, I came upon this. And we can have a discussion about it after. But it says, studies from a 2018 National Bureau of Economic Research found that people who are unhealthy earn less, save less, and accumulate less wealth over the years than healthy people. Why? Being unhealthy can affect a person's ability to work, increase their medical costs, and shorten their life, losing time for investments to grow.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
When I saw that, I was just like, word.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
It does.
It does.
We sick all the time, so we can't afford anything.
Productivity
And
No,
the
it
productivity
shows.
go down.
Or
Correct.
creativity also is inhibited. I mean, we want to look at not just being alive, but you want to think about longevity.
Of course.
You also want to think about, okay, how does my lifestyle contribute to the fact that I'm around? So it's like I'm around for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
So what if you can have both? You know,
Yeah.
what if it is that you've built habits? The same thing we discussed about habit stacking.
Yeah.
You have no habit stack to ensure that your quality of life and longevity is of the highest standard. Because let's face it, if we're not feeling well, we're now performing at a lower level. Or in order to supplement for the deficiencies we're experiencing, we now have to be taking, certain medications that otherwise we wouldn't. That's going to compromise, different parts of our bodies. So we're not saying we're not advocates for medication where they're necessary, but let's not pretend that we want to become, resistant to antibiotics. We don't want to be taking, things that are going to impede what our liver function is supposed to do.
Let's prevent it rather than correct it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about taking the preventative steps. So that in the future you're around for investments to ripen, because compound interest is real.
Correct.
So
and what I really liked about Garfin's quote is, for me, not a quote, it's a fact, right? It's a fact.
That's right.
What I really liked about it is that, for me, it shows the correlation between money and health, because we know definitely that money, economics, that kind of thing, is definitely a social determinant of health, like based on the socioeconomic class that you're in, your income, all these things affect your health. And in this instance, it's showing that people who don't have the money are severely disadvantaged, right? And I think that kind of definitely segues into what we want to talk about today, because it shows that what can we do to ensure that everyone has an equal chance at health. You know?
Right.
Yeah. And what are the steps that we have to take? So Daniel, as a wellness coach, you can just dive into it a little bit. What are things that persons need to consider or to do in order to live, to kind of maintain that balance between living that lifestyle that we ought to be living,
Yes.
and then versus the money that we have in our wallets to spend?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I would say that this is a real concern. So don't let anybody ever tell you that, your pocket is the only determining factor, but it's also very important because it can be prohibitive to leading a healthy lifestyle if it is that you're not planning, you're not prepared, and you're not watching what you're purchasing.
Right.
So it is a case where, when they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yes.
It's the same with nutrition.
Right.
So you really want to go into a situation understanding, of course, the core factors of what your body's requirements are. How many people in your family are you shopping for or contributing to the different meals?
Yeah.
And then how much time do you realistically have? And that helps you to create a budget because you already know what you have to spend. You're already on a path where you're like, all right, I have these bills, I have, livable expenses and so on.
Yes.
So my grocery shopping has to fit within X and Y for the month.
Yes.
So with that in mind, one of the things that we try to do is to encourage clients to plan ahead. Look at what it is that you have in season food. What is it you can grow in your backyard? I mean, in the Caribbean, we have the benefit of, we have sunshine year round. I mean, we may have rain, a little bit of a drought here and there, but we can grow things for ourselves.
Definitely.
And most people have a family member, if you're living, in urban communities, who, are going to be in rural areas. And it is that you can network and trade. We probably all grew up where we were passing, apples across the fence and collecting back naseberry or somebody have a breadfruit or an ackee tree. So don't forget your roots in this case. So it is that you can actually plan meals around what's in season, connect with local farmers. Here in Jamaica, we go to Curry Market, Coronation Market. There's always Linstead Market, somewhere around the place where this is where the farmers come. Get involved, understand what fruits and vegetables are in season, save the seeds, plant it, give it to someone who have land.
Correct.
And then when you reap these, fruits, the beans, you create salads, you create fruit plates, you create, mashes and stews.
Yes.
It's a part of our culture. So it's understanding that, processed food has its place in our society. It's, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But we don't need to be breaking the budget just to, save time if we're able to plan ahead. Also, where we're touching on the idea of not going into the supermarket unprepared. You're not going in there when your belly hanging down and you're hungry.
Yeah,
at that point, you're gonna snack.
Yeah,
you're gonna
everything I see, I feel for. It's like, this could be good.
This could be good. Yeah, I need this in my cart, and you're now shopping not with with intention. It's now just hunger.
Yeah,
and when you're hungry, you don't make the best decision.
Correct.
Your eyes are larger than your belly.
Yes.
And you also want to start with the parameters of the supermarket first. So don't dive in the middle and say, let me just grab that snack to snack on. What? No. Start where the whole foods and vegetables are, the frozen section, and pick up the necessities because you have a list, because you have a budget. So then you know the disposable income to buy things that are, you find those are going to be the processed foods or the real special fruits or vegetables that cost a little bit more. The things from foreign. Yeah. That's what you want to add to your cart. So that's where you add those on as an add-on item. So everybody know the shopping online, and what you go on the website for, and you have an add-on at the end. Approach it like an add-on. Also, if you start to study how supermarkets are laid out, you start to understand what's on eye level.
I was just about to say, the layout of the supermarket. There's a science behind that.
There is the psychology of shopping, of buying, and then when you reach to the counter, you're like, boy, now could I just do with this little snack here? Sure, budget that in food-wise, calorie-wise, but also budget it in to say, okay, can we afford it this month?
Yeah.
So when you're doing the planning, to backtrack a little bit, you want to start to understand what are you preparing at home. Are you a single person? You're shopping for yourself. You know the kind of food you're eating for the month because you're paying attention. Are you, preparing food for a family of 5? So you can start buying things in bulk. Check with your friends, check with your family, and see what supermarkets, what large marts, what markets have things on sale, and then buy those in bulk.
There's no shame in that, huh?
No shame in
loving a sale or cutting on coupons or any of these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you go shopping with your friends. So, okay, say you roll up to the supermarket. So you know, whichever spot, and you're like, all right, if we put together
Yes.
and purchase this bulk item, I don't need this whole bag of, you know, whole grain, whatever. I don't need all this oats, but together, or both our families will benefit.
Yeah.
And these are things we did in the past. We moved as a community or a village.
Community.
Community.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea. And then now you take it to that next step. Now you've reached home. You've
Yeah.
already planned what you're, buying for the month or for the week. And you already figure, okay, this is how I'm going to prepare the food. Don't be too quick to throw away the leftovers or the scraps.
Correct, yeah.
If you're preparing clean food, whole vegetables, you have the skins, you have the peels, you can boil the peel and make tea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can put the herb cuttings in your jug of water and make distilled water.
Yeah.
Infused
Infused
water.
water.
Yeah.
You have a little mango, a little bit overripe. What about cutting it up and making a smoothie?
Yeah.
So we're not
Or even
throwing
using the scraps to make compost to plant your
to
stuff.
plant your stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. And many of the things you buy in the market or the supermarket,
Yeah.
I mean, they're natural food. I mean, buy organic as much as possible. And the cuttings, plant them and they grow like the herbs. There
Yeah.
are many things like scallion.
Yeah.
You just stick it in the
Easy.
water.
Yeah.
It sprouts the roots, the root shoots, sorry, and then you plant it on a little pot or outside
I
hood
I
of a
tried to
garden.
plant watermelon the other day. It didn't work. It's like I put it in a napkin and it sprouted and I was like, wow, look at me, Farmer
Yes,
Sasha.
there we
and
go.
then I put it in the ground and it disappeared. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, and that's a part of connecting to the roots. And for the viewers that you have that have kids, guys, get the kids in the kitchen. One, it's gonna take the load off of you, and two, a part of budgeting is helping the kids to refocus on foods that are more affordable, and those are going to be the in-season foods. Also, you want to train them to say, hey guys, growing up, this is how you're going to pay attention to reading labels. This is how you're going to be eating naturally. You're going to learn what's in season, and you're going to reconnect with the fact that you can grow. So we're not just throwing out the leftovers. Let's freeze them. So suppose you cook, I mean, I'm vegan, so I mean, my stews don't have the pig's tail and but all these things freeze well. So learn what vegetables you can buy in bulk. So don't go buy a little sliver of pumpkin when you're like, boy, this could last me for a month in the freezer if what I did was to cut the skin off and freeze it.
Yeah.
You know
Cube
what I
it
mean?
and something,
Cube it
yeah.
and freeze it.
Yeah.
The stew can freeze and then you pack in your lunch. That takes us to the next step. When you buy lunch on the road every day and then complain that life hard, I'm just gonna say.
I mean, it fell in my garden. Like my garden is here and it fell like right here.
That's a drape. Daniel,
man.
that's a drape.
But the reality is we are busy. We're leading busy lives. Many of us, for the first time, we're working from home. So we kind of got reaccustomed to the kitchen. We know what it look like outside of just in and out in the morning.
Yeah.
So we can pack a lunch to go to work, or we can prep a large salad. Something that many clients find helpful is making a big, large, loving salad. Your chickpeas, your nuts and so on, because you're building your plate, and then that's just in the fridge. So when you're hungry, you add it to your meal. So you have whatever protein source. I may have tofu and beans. You may have, chicken or fish.
Yeah.
And it is that you'd have prepared all of that. When you lighten up, whether it is gas or electronic, your stove, instead of cooking just 3 chicken breasts, you cook the whole chicken.
Yeah.
And then you can start using the parts to make soup.
Yeah.
And you find that you start being creative because
Yeah.
we have no excuse to not be online looking at cooking blogs.
No, it's
Yeah,
true.
you're right.
It's
People
true.
have gotten so creative and they're sharing it for free.
Exactly. and some of the things are so simple too, because like you said, so you use chicken. You may not eat an entire chicken in a week, but maybe you could shred it and make a chicken salad. And like these things, fry up a little piece and eat it with something. So we need to be creative in the kitchen for sure.
But one of the things that I heard you say, Daniel, repeatedly, and they all sound good, but one of the things that jumps out at me is the commitment of time that it takes. So I want to dive a little bit into that. What about people who just don't have the time to do those sort of things? So my heart is willing, but I just don't have the capacity at this moment to do that.
I think to answer that question, we have to be honest with ourselves. Is it that we are working so hard and the ROI, the return on the investment of the work we're doing, is allowing us to have to afford help?
Yeah.
Is it that we are investing our time in creating an opportunity that our family or friends can see and say, okay, we'll support you in this? Or is it that we have a lot of busy time where really and truly there is no
lazy?
return?
No?
You could say lazy.
Or sometimes, or sometimes busy doing nothing.
Busy doing nothing, or you're being tasked to do things that, aren't really your responsibility. So
Right.
that's another conversation. That's another conversation that you could have, and you say, okay, maybe I need to restructure how it is I'm spending my time. So that's where, when I said the heart is in the home and in the kitchen, that's where everything comes together. Sit at your kitchen counter and really start looking on your calendar, look at what it is, start making and documenting what do you do each day, what's your actual task and what are you doing. You might find somebody say, hey, can you sign this for me, can you run this errand, can you get this thing, and you're like, okay, because you're a helpful person, but in truth and in fact that's not your job description. In truth and in fact, you can tell that family not this weekend. You don't have to look after your cousin Pitney.
You don't have to do everything and be everything for everyone.
And leave yourself out of it. If you are genuinely busy, after looking at it, you're like, this is just a period in life that I am in, because we all go through it, where you just have to buckle down. I mean, there are people studying in university, there are people who are going through a changing career, a new family. That's where you start to really take note of how it is you can cook together. So is it that you need to get your partner involved? Is it your kids need to start, taking up some of the slack? Is it that you have to call your friends and say, hey guys, let's meal prep together?
Yeah, and that could be a date, a
It
friend
can be
date,
a
a partner
friend date.
date.
Exactly.
Just
Can
cooking
be.
together.
Cooking
Yeah.
And if all of that fails and you're like, this is more than I can manage, then sometimes you just have to outsource.
Yeah.
You just outsource, consciously, and you start to shop around. So don't just stop at the first place that offer this nice food that you
And you
feel
just-
for. You have to evaluate. Everything's on social media now. So you can be like, what's the cost for this? Where can
Yeah,
I get that? And
definitely.
maybe I can cook my vegetables. That don't take no time, but I don't want to cook the rice.
Correct.
I don't want to
Yes.
cook the tofu. So
Yeah.
I'll outsource that.
But part home, part Yeah.
Exactly.
But the thing about it is, I think what is showing us is that everything takes effort
effort.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
on our
Yeah,
part.
and that's
So we
why we're
can't just
singing
have
laziness,
it.
with the effort.
It's not going to be at our fingertips. So really and truly,
Yeah.
it's kind of trying to find ways to work smarter.
Correct.
Not
And
harder.
not harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I really like to, you mentioned the reading of the food labels. I think a lot of times why we think eating healthily is expensive is because, as you say, we might purchase, you use the example of oats, a big bag of oats, and we don't look at the expiry date.
Oh, for sure.
So we buy it and we probably use it for like a week or two and then we leave it. And then we don't use it for another month, but by the time we return, it's expired.
Right.
So I think it's really important, as you mentioned, like to be intentional in our shopping. That means looking at expiry dates as well.
You know what's funny about that? Many people, they say, oh, I don't eat this, or I haven't had that, I can't afford that. Check the back of your cupboard.
Yeah.
Check the back of the fridge.
Yeah.
Sitting
It's
around there,
true.
who is that? Who is
Yeah.
that who hasn't been seen
Yeah.
for the last year?
Correct.
So, and that brings us to
Yeah.
something else that's really important. Don't be afraid of freeze food. Don't be afraid of frozen fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of canned things. So sometimes you have to
Yeah.
buy the canned food in bulk.
Right.
Of course, you try to, choose brands that are clean. Sometimes you use a supermarket brand. You go here, you choose something that, the grocer will supply. It's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that, because that's
Yeah.
something you can package and reuse.
And that's a myth that a lot of people have, that when you freeze food, it loses the nutritional value, like your fruits and your vegetables. So they tend to shy away from that. But I think I read that a study was done, and the vegetables and the fruit remain the same nutritionally sound.
Minimal
Yeah.
loss. And that's another
Yeah.
thing. We have to educate ourselves. So you would have to figure out, when I, go and pick this fresh lettuce out of my garden, or I purchase it from a farm or so on,
Yeah.
how do I store it that it's going to last? Is it that I have to gently wash it, wrap it in some kind of paper,
Tissue or something,
put it in the
yes.
fridge, versus, my onions I want to keep on the counter.
Yeah.
When I have a bumper crop of orange or the neighbor lime tree bear, like what am I going to do? Am I going to take the lime and make them spoil in the fridge, or am I going to
Yeah.
juice it and put it in the freezer?
Yeah.
So I have that, and I can start looking at recipes that require these things.
Yeah.
And those are ways you can really start budgeting, but you have to have a plan, guys. You have
Yeah.
to have a plan of what you're eating, and then you don't get bored that way quite so easily, because you can recreate recipes at home.
Yeah.
It's something to do as a
Definitely.
family.
Yeah.
And another thing that I absolutely advocate for is for picky kids, because many parents will complain and say, boy, I really would eat healthier, but the kids, and it's like, okay, smoothies. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
Blend everything. Freeze it and
Yeah.
blend it.
It's
Banana,
true. Yeah.
blend it after it's frozen. And
Yeah.
let them do it. Let them start to get accustomed and reconnect with the flavors that are natural. Let them reconnect with the textures, and let them understand, I did this with you, and this is no our thing. Because remember, lots of the most positive memories that we have is what we did with our parents or grandparents and so on
Yeah.
growing up. So you want to be conscious as you co-create these memories, because that's what
Yes.
they're going to have later on. That's going to
Correct.
help them budgeting. thing that's going to help them with how they make their decisions.
Yeah, no,
So-
I agree.
A word.
Yeah, no, and I feel like budgeting on a whole as a concept is something that I want to say our generation doesn't have much experience with. I can speak for me. Like in secondary school, I didn't do any business subjects, no accounts, anything. So what I know of budgeting is either what I learned from my parents or just common sense, you know? But I feel like that's something that we need to be intentional about as well. How do we budget? How much money a month is good for food?
Right.
Like these things, you know, like these are things that should be taught to
From
young
the bat.
people. Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, that's not something in our culture that we're taught. What you call it? Like, I forget the term, like financial literacy.
Yes.
financial-
That's not something we're
exactly
taught at all.
it.
So
Yeah,
we
no.
literally are thrusted into the working world, and then we have to
Yeah.
figure it out.
At that
Because
point.
when we're
Yeah,
in school, we're taught to
definitely.
do, you have to do maths,
Algebra.
English,
Yeah.
sciences, and all these things. And even though we do those subjects, especially the maths, how do we apply it
In
to our
real
everyday
life.
life?
Yeah.
So this is something that we need to
Yeah.
learn, financial literacy.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that you brought it up, because I think at the end of the day, that will be critical as to how we balance all facets of our life.
Absolutely.
Not only
Yeah.
just the food, but also the social aspect
Yeah.
that
Oh,
we
for
need
sure.
to create that
Definitely.
mental wellness
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other aspects as well with our families outside of that, because we need to take those breaks from work.
Yeah.
So how am I going to take that break from work if I can't afford to eat, much as take that vacation with
Correct.
my family?
Yeah.
Can't happen.
You know,
Yeah,
so we need to
yeah.
find ways and means how to balance it all
Exactly.
Correct.
in with given the constraints that we're given, which
Right.
is the one salary,
Yeah.
Yes.
The one salary.
and then all the things that we have to do. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting conversation, and I
Yeah,
like
it
it.
is.
And you brought up something really interesting as well. Many people ask the question, how do I travel on a budget? So, you're going to a foreign country. You have
Yeah.
to take a similar approach even in your own hometown. Find out where things are, what they cost, so you can call ahead in advance. Hey, what's on the menu today? What's the special? What can I have? So you're not stepping in unprepared and then swipe
Yeah,
goes a credit card.
correct.
Or
Correct.
pool with your friends. You said it earlier. Even for the shopping, you say you can go with your friends and pool with your
yeah.
friends to
But
vacation
even
together.
though, okay, you're for vacation, because I go to say sometimes you go to eat with friends and you order something costing $5 and
Oh,
they'll order
girl.
something costing 30, and
We
then
are
they want
going
to
Dutch.
split equally.
No.
I think that's unfair.
Yes.
Friends, I love you guys.
Yeah, that's another thing. And sometimes when you're on a budget, because you know what the currency is, you're like, all right, you know what? I'm going to skip the drinks tonight. Or maybe I'm not going to have an appetizer, or I'm going to skip dessert. And there's nothing wrong with
Nothing
that.
wrong with that, yeah.
Because at that point, you're making an investment in something
Know
different.
yourself, know your pocket.
Know your pocket,
Yeah,
yeah.
don't live above your means.
That's right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's so true. And they have so many so many resources at our fingertips. I see there's so many apps now
Oh,
that you
for
could
sure.
use. You could just put in your spend and these things. So I think we need
Boy,
to
I don't like those
use-
apps.
For
I
real.
do not like those
I've
apps.
never used one. I've never tried. I
They
just know
remind me
them.
of how poor I am. I don't like
I
it.
thought you were going
I
to
don't-
say privacy. You're not sure about putting the information in it.
It's a constant reminder. It's like, Gaffy, you can't afford that. I don't want that. No. So I stay away.
Yeah.
But I try to balance in other ways without having that constant my
in your
face. That,
face.
Yeah.
You're poor.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
But
good to
yeah,
know what
again,
works.
at the end of the day, it is there to serve a purpose for someone.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
And the fact of the matter is, we do have these assets at our disposal to do
correct.
what we want. For me, for example, I don't need that app because I have friends who check me. When I see a new painting come in my house, I get a call from my best friend. She say, "Think you broke." She's like, "Where that painting come
Where's
from? How
that?
much it costs?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say you need it and you bought it. What are we gonna do to make that back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
fill
yeah,
that
yeah.
void. 'Cause
Financial
clearly,
accountability.
clearly you took it from somewhere. You took it from
Yes.
somewhere because
Yeah.
you never have that money there before.
Yeah.
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 And then I have to be like, just school the man.
Let me
Yeah.
slip
We're
through.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
So she's
Or
your accountability
She's
partner.
my accountability
Yeah.
partner.
And I think that's important in
Yeah,
health.
definitely.
In scuba diving, we have a term, it's you dive buddy.
Oh, you scuba dive?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hear this
tell us
now,
more,
hear
Danny.
this
You're holding
now.
back.
Holding
You're
back,
holding
right? Multifaceted.
Yeah.
We're out there in these seas.
Yeah, she's not in the streets. No, she's
No,
in
in
the
the
seas.
Yes.
So it's something that's really important. You never dive without your dive buddy. That's like call call that rule number 1 before you enter the water. So you have somebody who you're tag teaming with. If you need oxygen, you whip out the octopus, you share air, you have someone who's looking out, you're saying, yes, I'm good, A-okay, time to go up. So you have all these signals that you would have pre-organized, you know what they mean, and you have someone planning that can help to keep you in check.
I love that these conversations always come back to a community. The village. And it just shows so important that in every facet or every aspect of our life, that's important. So again, it goes back to the fact that we also need to be discerning in who is in our space, who we share information with, and who helps to keep us accountable. And I'm going to openly say that I'm very thankful that I not only have one, but I have several accountability partners who keep me in check. And I think anyone who is here that is listening, please listen with a discerning eye and a discerning ear, because these are things that you need to do to take you from step A to step B, because as we have seen, everybody in your life serves a purpose for a season. And so the person who you're friends with now, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes they're not there to go on to your next season. Sometimes they're holding you back.
And that's okay.
And that is okay. So you need to learn to separate, because when you have that sense of discernment, you know where you want to go.
Exactly.
And then you're able to feel who can take there with you, who you have to leave behind. And it's okay to go. But
No
carry
shame.
carry the ones with you who are helping you to who are pulling you along.
And
Instead you have to crutch up everybody.
No.
You know?
What's so interesting about that also is you become a sum of the 5 people you're around. That is true. So if you're around persons who are eating healthy, they're budgeting, that's the norm. That's the culture within the group. And it's not someone that's going to say, hey, let's go, out to drink every Friday. Or, hey, let's go and do these really expensive things. Or, hey, can you spot me this money, knowing you have goals that you're trying to achieve. They're not supporting or representing what it is you want to be and embody.
It's a like-minded
Or get into groups, because you can find that you look around you one day and you're like, I'm not jiving. This is not what I want. This is not who I want to be going forward. It's okay, as you said, to find another circle. Get involved in activities, affordable activities. That pique interest. You're getting involved, and then you're meeting new people.
And what I was thinking as you guys were talking about the aspect of community. So we focus on community as it relates to the people around us, but what about the systems around us that actually encourage us to eat healthily on a budget? I mean, a lot of people kind of shun, they look down on like food banks and pantries and stuff, but these things exist to help persons. It may not necessarily be the ideal epitome of healthy foods, but persons who can't afford, they can go churches offer food banks, supermarkets sometimes even. So I think it's also important that we look at the resources that are available to us.
True. No. I 100% agree. However, what I'm going to say on the flip side is, again, we don't take these things into consideration because of the stigma that the society attaches to
that
these
mean
things.
You're poor.
So you're poor, so you can't go to the Salvation Army. You're poor because you go to a food bank, and not because, yes, I can afford it, but I want to. It is there to help me to get to the next stage. So these are conversations that people need to have, and you have to admit it. But it's again, it's for us to debunk some of these myths, and to kind of do away with some of these stigmas that are there that are not serving us. You're right.
Really,
and then hold us back as a people.
No, it's true. It's really, really true. Like, I don't know, we dumb sometimes. I'm sorry.
But as young people, as a generation that's coming up, these are some things that we need to pass on down to the society that is now we are seeing is of gratification. They know
instant gratification. Cultural.
So we need to find a way to pass on those things that we have learned.
The value of it. And starting early. Many times as young people, you always think it's too early for me to make a change. Let me just go whatever flow the society, whatever vein is happening. And it's like, no. Stop. you need to create your own lane or see what lane you want to get into. So you could be, you know, a 15-year-old watching this podcast.
Yeah.
You really need to look at what you want for another 15 years.
Correct.
Because the seeds that you sow now, the things that you invest in, the foods you eat, the activities, the people, the books you read, that's all going to affect you in 15 years.
Feeding into you.
Compound interest. So you're going
It's
to
a
find that
thing.
it's going to
Yeah, that's true.
multiply. And it's
That's
true of the
true.
body. I mean, you find that you have a 7-year cycle, everything changes. So what you're eating today, you're going to feel it, you know, down
7
the
years
road.
down the
It's
road,
going to
yeah.
create that new body that you're going to be existing in.
Yeah.
In 7 years' time. So.
You counting how old you'll be? Start with a 5, ends with a...
Hey.
I'm just kidding.
And how my body gonna look when I
Exactly.
continue to feed it the way I'm feeding it now. Eh?
Yeah.
It don't look good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're looking
I read
down the road.
it. I'm looking ahead, not for the
Ahead.
now, but for the future.
future,
Yeah, that was my why.
That was
We
your
must
why.
talk about the why. Yeah,
The
man.
future.
Yeah, I don't want to look like an old 40-year-old man. I want to look like a.
Like when you have
look
your
at
children and you go in school and they say, "Oh, you bring your grandpa."
I don't want that. I want to be like, oh, is that your brother?
Yeah.
No, that's my dad. Oh, daddy, nice man.
Yeah, man. And we get to reframe within the conversation about what health and what wealth looks like. And
Yeah.
as you quite rightly said, the stigma, it's actually even eating grown provision.
Yeah.
At one point, I don't know if it's like that in Trinidad.
Poor man food.
Yes. People say, oh, we don't eat.
You know, that is very true. I think,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, this might be aging me, but I recall when this changed. I don't know if it was done before, but here in Jamaica, I recall when it kind of changed. I think it was Minister Tufton at the time was
Yes.
health minister, and all of a sudden they transform and make it seem like
Plant and eat
planting
what you
and eat what you grow.
Yes.
It's something viable. It's something sexy.
Everybody's
It's something that
doing it.
every
Yeah.
family should do.
Yeah.
And at that point, like before, I'd be like, I don't want that. I want my pancake.
Yeah.
But then it kind of changed the narrative, and I looked at it in a different eye. And my dad was a farmer.
Right.
Well, I mean, no, my father's all the things. But anyway, he had a farm.
Right.
And I used to, it was not something, it's something I grew up
Yeah.
on. So it wasn't anything that was sexy. It also wasn't something I was ashamed of. It was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
For
when he started to do that, I was just like, yo,
Yeah.
my father
Yeah.
onto a thing.
Yeah,
Eat
and
what
you
you
see
grow,
that's
grow,
a role
eat.
that
Yeah,
society, that
because-
systems play. Because look at how your perspective
Correct.
just changed.
Because he used to tell me that,
Yeah.
like, no, I don't want to go buy that from anybody. I want to grow my thing. I know what I'm putting into my animals and my farm. I want it to be organic. Poor me never know what organic means. But then I
Yes.
think when the minister started to have those conversations and put
becomes a-
things out,
yeah.
it started to make, I was
Policy.
like,
Yeah. See?
And then that's when I think when it turned in Jamaica, and I think it has so it's no longer poor man food. It was
Right,
something that we
same.
need
Pride
to include
in-
and
yeah,
pride
yeah,
because you know.
Well, first, it's no longer
Sure.
poor man food because the price is
Yeah.
high.
And that
But, I mean,
And that too,
Yeah.
we do have both of that here, which is why
Yeah.
again it's also important. And then I can probably chime in on this. You have to be able to you know where to go to kind of fit your
Yeah.
pocket because
Yeah.
we do have
Yeah. A lot of
the different
people-
markets or
yeah, they
whatever.
don't like to
Different
shop in
price
markets.
points.
They
Yeah.
prefer to go supermarkets. I know. I mean, let me not say that. Like I love the experience of a market, but I view it as an experience. And
Yes.
for some people, that is what they have to do
Yeah.
because the prices are reasonable
high
and in the
otherwise.
markets and stuff.
I
So I
l-
think we need to put pride aside as well.
I love going to the markets, but I simply don't do it because there's nobody for me to cook for. So when I go and buy those things, I don't have a big family where I know it's gonna finish in 2
Yeah,
days, 3
yeah.
days. So it's like
Yeah,
a waste for me.
spoilage
So,
now.
So you know
so that
that, yeah,
experience,
yeah.
though I like it, it's not something that I need to do.
do.
So when I go to the
Gotcha.
supermarket, to pick up whatever food, I just pick it up same time because it's
Yeah.
just it's easier.
Easier.
But I do like the experience of shopping. So I'm not really an online person type of
Yeah.
thing because I like to go through the aisles and
Yeah.
walk
And
and
choose
pick up
your
and
own
thing.
Yeah.
When I go to the market, I like to go talk to the person. How much for this? What kind of yam is this? You'd swear never come from country because I asking the people what kind of yam, although I know. But anyway, so those are the things because again, I also think that outside of what it does for me, I think that familial bond with people
Oh, for sure.
is also makes the part of the experience. Because nothing nice like country people.
Listen, and the thing is, food is a story. Food is information.
Yes.
Food is love.
Food is love, right? It's passion. So when you look at it, when you can attach a story, you attach a name, you attach a family, and you realize when you're shopping local, when you're buying in your market, I mean, buying in the supermarket and all of that as well, your greengrocers, you're literally investing in this person continuing their family. I remember, at therapy when we started working with farmers and we saw maybe the kids weren't quite so interested, and then over time it's like, no, they're getting involved because they see a future. Know that we've reframed what farming is, and farming is now sexy. It's like, I have my
narrative.
farm, I'm now in the earth. You change the narrative.
Yeah.
Now you're saying, okay, that next generation coming up, it's like, okay, I'm aspiring to have land to farm. I'm aspiring now to,
I love that. And that's what Nestlé does, right? As well with our farmers in Trinidad.
Listen, I was actually impressed with that because I went to a farm in Trinidad, dairy farm.
This is what, Turere?
And the Turere farm up in Guayco.
Guayco?
Yeah, and it was honestly, it transported me back to my childhood because it was just open and airy and animals roaming, and the families are just friendly and accommodating, and then you literally see the process and you realize that this fuels their livelihood. This helps to tell their story and the roots that they have within the community, and
every box
what
of
that
milk
means.
you buy
Every box of milk you buy goes back to that. So I mean, it's nice for a corporate company to tell that story, but when you go there underground and you feel it, it's different. It's mind-blowing.
I love
so out upon the farm, I never really mind. It was have a good time. Although it was work, it was a fantastic time. But then I'm a country boy at heart, so
it feels good. And one of the things that we also look at, even in food and in budgeting, is how you reconnect for your mental health to nature. So maybe you're not flying overseas, or you're going to stay in a fancy hotel as often as you may like, but when's the last time you went for a walk outside or visited a river? Link up with your cousins in country and go shoot the waterfall and
go
just
to the
enjoy
beach.
Jump off a rock stone.
Yeah, man. So these are little things, and I've found that when I do my nature walks and I go into bush, I'm now eating the jackfruit off the tree. I'm eating apples that just dropping off, and it helps you to create a mindset of abundance. So you realize you are provided for.
Can we talk about abundance?
Abundance.
Listen.
So, nature is abundant, and in fact, a lot of the resistance that we as persons who were formerly enslaved, experiencing the Caribbean, it was the fact that we had fruit trees growing everywhere. And so we had a sense of independence where we don't have to work here. We can now eat the fruit. So
I think what nature does is it keeps us rooted.
It keeps us
keeps us connected, and that all ties back to the mental, to the emotional, to the psychosocial, everything.
Even physical.
Even the physical, correct.
And the free resource that we just have literally at our disposal that we take for granted.
We do.
We do take it for granted a lot.
I love it.
No.
Okay, well.
Wow. So, I mean, that's the end of the episode.
Discussion. That's it. That's it.
These things just fly so fast. I don't understand, guys.
We're having a good time, but at the end of the day, I think when it comes to money, we can go on and on, but I think why this is so different and so interesting, it ties money to our mind, to our body, to our soul, and just to see how it all intertwines. Even in the environment. It's one story,
and it's not always negative,
and it's correct.
It's not always negative.
Correct. And sometimes it's out of the lens of what we see based on our interactions and the people around us. So very nice. So Daniel, I want to thank you for joining us for this amazing session. I do know that our listeners and our viewers got some really exciting information, even and some critical information. And even if they didn't, we did for sure. And we're going to be using it to apply. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. It was really fun. I enjoyed this.
Yes.
As always.
Thank you so much for tuning in again. It was an amazing time. We're going to sign off for now. On behalf of my lovely co-host, Sasha Bernard, we're going to say continue to watch and listen and be with us. Give us your feedback. Remember on all socials, Nestlé Caribbean, so that we can keep the conversations going. And until next time, we're going to say we're signing off. And remember, as we always say, get well, live well, be well. Have a good one.